Oh, that was excellent, Cynthia. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm with Cynthia Milani, who is an exceptional character. She has been dealing with corporations, dealing with their conflict resolution, their diversity, and so on and so forth on an international basis, traveling everywhere. But now she's exploring something new, but in the same vein. So, first of all, shall we say hello? Hello, Cynthia.
Hello to you, and it's a great pleasure back to see you. It's been too long, so at least I get to see you on camera.
Well, it's probably the best way.
Uh,
Well, let's plow into it straight away. Okay, you're American. How did you end up on the Riviera?
well, I think that's the first adjustment. I am American, but I'm also Italian, and I am Italian by marriage, and so I've actually been on the Italian side more than the U.S. I left quite a while ago, and much of my life has been, as you know, all over. But yes, so I am a permanent French resident, and I am also an Italian citizen, which gives me a lot of abilities that I would not have as just an American. So I've been able to just travel back and forth very easily.
So why the Riviera? Why settle here and not Italy?
Well, that is just one of those serendipity situations. I was very happily ensconced in Milan. My life was there. My children were there, and we were looking for a place just outside of the city. And I kept saying, 1 hour. I want to be 1 hour away. And our driver happened to, who's Italian, said, my girlfriend sells real estate in France. Why don't we go there? And I'm sitting in the back seat the whole time thinking, why do I have to go to France? I want to be looking at Italy. And the moment we hit the Riviera, it was just wow. It was I loved it. I started dreaming in Technicolor of the sea. But the main one of the main drivers was that I had my children who had spent the first 12 years of their life in American schools. They went over to Italy and they didn't really adjust that well to the Italian system. It was very different. They didn't want to know their opinion. They wanted their facts. It just was a different approach. So it was kind of a rough ride. And when we sitting in a little restaurant in Antibes, somebody said, "Well, it's a nice place to live, but what can you do down here?" And he explained his job, and I thought, "Wow, my clients are actually here as well." So I was able to blend my intercultural training with these excellent schools. So my son went to CIV, my daughter went to the Mougin school, and we were totally happy, except that the clients were all here, but they did very little training. So I had to go to Paris. I had to go to other places to actually do it, and that created a bit of a cramp. But other than that, we've been great.
And you have a most amazing property in Le Rouret. Absolutely amazing property. And you're making good use of this property. We'll talk about that later. But
Okay.
how did you come across this property? Did you have to search a long time or?
hmm Well, it's a little bit like the serendipity of getting here. One thing is, Mike, is I knew what I wanted, and so I've always liked anything that was old, anything that had patina on it, anything that had history, and not just brick and mortar. So the first, after a search coming back and forth Milan, we found a rental, which was a mill. I knew I wanted a mill, and it was a lovely olive mill in La Roquette, and very French, and we loved it, but we didn't own it. And so I was still stuck with the fact that I wanted a mill. And I started my search, and the real estate agent said, "Well, first of all, if you can't find what you're looking for, and if you did, you couldn't afford it." So but I was very persistent. And it's one of those things I do quantum physics. I just knew what I wanted, and it materialized. Somebody put out the ad, and we got it. And then we just kept expanding it and growing it up. And it's been here 20 years. And it is an olive mill, but we do our trainings here. So it's just a constant gardening, except that we do it with the building and we do it with the environment.
It's a magical place, I have to say. But let's go on to what we're doing now, which is very much the same as what you're doing before. And you divided up mind, body, and culture, unifying those things. And you call yourself an neuroanthropologist. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah. I started out actually well, there was only in anthropology, and I was at Columbia University, and in most of the American schools, there was not yet neuroanthropology. It was physical anthropology. And I became interested very quickly in the brain, and I was lucky to find with my professors there people who were working on it. I ended up working in with nutrition and cancer feedback based on work I'd done in Africa on witchcraft, on the control of the body and the mind through certain healers. And that became the beginning of biofeedback at NIH, the National Institute of Health. After a while, I took that, I morphed into intercultural training and took that and worked in over 50 different countries with over 50 different nationalities, all kinds of different programs that had to do with teaching culture and how to integrate, and mainly for companies also how to to adjust for that in their leadership trainings. And it's still what I do basically.
So what is the program you have now? Because I know you run courses and you actually have going to have retreats, both here and in exotic places. Uh,
Yeah.
so what happens in a nutshell? I know it's more complicated than we have time for, but in a nutshell, what actually happens?
Well, apart from magic, what only because of the people who come. They're coming this year from India. We've got work we do with Costa Rica. We've got people from all over Europe. They come from all over. Our courses, I have a group of speakers, and I'm one of them, and I'm usually in the room. Because I always do the hard neuroscience part, the part that teaches you, Mike, what makes you different and what makes you based on your brain and your body and your culture. And the courses that we do, we have one coming up we have two in June. The first one will be on conflict resolution with Dean Foster, and who is a well-known speaker all over the world, CNN, et cetera. He will be talking about conflict. I will add the neuroscience of emotions. The second one we're doing is with Shannon Murphy, an outstanding speaker who will be giving her certification on the tools. So in other words, we can give you the tools to be able to understand and apply that will enhance just about everything in your life in terms of how you use your mind over your emotions, understanding your nervous system.
Wow, that's a lot to take on board. So are these very intensive sessions? Is there time to relax? How do you approach that?
Well, we integrated absolutely with what we do. And you're asking all the right questions, Mike, because that's exactly how you clearly understand the development. It's how it developments. The setting here is that we do have a river with a little cascade with a waterfall, lavender, roses, etc. But we're inside of a studio where we do our coursework, and but we use the gardens not only for our breakout rooms, so you can go to breakout room in the olive trees or wherever it is, but we use the villages. And so in the evenings we break early, and I do a neuroscience of culture. Maybe we'll go to Cagnes-sur-Mer and talk about what made that so special, and about the impact of 1,000 years, about the French mentality. We will go to Antibes, usually to the Picasso Museum, and we give not only that tour, but I do it in terms also of emotions, what we see in the artwork, storytelling, how to use that. So everything is didactic. We have a wonderful course we do with Maeve Beck up in Tourette-sur-Loup with the flowers, and she talks about how the whole energy behind them, the quantum physics, we do quantum physics with it all, made very easy. It's all about integration. And so we will include that as part really of our coursework. But people are eating and enjoying and out, but seeing everything through the eyes of the from neuroscience. And it's neuroanthropology, really. It's people, learning about people, our history, our geography, etc. What made us us, based on also about 30 years, 1,000 years of the brain, because the brain hasn't changed much.
Well, clearly, looking at modern history, it hasn't changed at all.
Oh, it has not. We are back where we started, aren't
I
we?
think we are in many ways. The other thing is, what is your demographic? What sort of person seeks you out?
Well, it's usually people who are at our conferences. We do a lot of public speaking, and so a lot of them are interculturalists that come that have learned about us that way. I do a lot of speaking to clients that are a lot of webinars for they could be pharmaceuticals, they could be a group of from the Chamber of Commerce. It brings a lot of different kinds of people. It just depends on where we have last been presenting publicly, paid or otherwise. But so it's a total mix. This is for anyone. I do a lot of speaking down here for the social groups like the International Women's Club. What makes you you? From the neuroscience point of view, and but it's very easy and easy to absorb. Any of the different clubs I will come in and speak for because I just love to talk about it. And I found that whereas most people, and I find this with the head of a company, I'll say, you know how your engine, your car works. Yeah, you know anything about your engine? Of course, I've looked under the hood. I said, what about your brain? Nada. So that's where we began. And but we're all cultural beings, and I put that together, and we work with trauma, and we all have our own traumas, and how to use that through the nice kinds of therapeutic work that we do.
So, how can we find out more about? I'm totally intrigued. So, how does somebody find out more about you and what you do?
Well, the thing you could look on my website, which is www.igdcenternld.com. And you will see some of our past workshops. You can see some of the great people that I have working with us. Another one is George Simons, who does gamifications. I also did a game on the brain, which is called which is all about learning it through the use of gaming. And I have one on neurodiversity and the leadership that's coming out. And he will come up and do all of his game playing. So we're doing gamification. And you'll read about the other ones that are, I mean, you could do gamification on photography, Mike. How do you do, using all kinds of learning is a new learning tool, very interactive. So that's the best way to look at that. You'll see who's working with us and who does presentations here. And you will see Armando Milani, whom I know you enjoy his work.
Oh, he's amazing. I didn't touch on that because that's a subject in itself, but this is a great man, a great designer who designs and creates posters, but he never uses a computer. He just uses a pencil and his creativity. An amazing gentleman. I'll
Well,
tell
he does have a
you.
staff that uses a computer, I must say. But
No,
I will,
he designs. His first thoughts are pen and paper.
yeah, yeah, but that's right. The really great ones, and because from the brain's point of view, man, it's a very different process. He is doing something different in his brain. The creativity that he is using comes in differently when you use when you use a pencil. And we have on the grounds, we have the other side of the river, which we are developing into the Garden of Peace. And we will have all of his work in display for a living gallery, which you will be interested in, I think, and hope to have you up to see. So it's actually was done for, I was asked to put in a children's garden for Ukraine, Peace Garden. So it's the Garden of Peace.
Yeah,
And all of it, because his work is all about eco-humanity,
right.
and it works very well with what I do, which is about peace, conflict resolution, and really finding a better way to live for all humanity. And we do it through the brain and through our artwork and through our conversations and of course it's for anyone who's interested.
Absolutely fabulous. Well, our time is up, Cynthia, and so it remains for me to say a huge thank you so much for spending the time with me. I so appreciate it, and I do encourage people to look at your site and check you out because you are indeed, and Armando too, fascinating individuals, and I love what you do. So thank you so much.
That's great. Well, we hope people will come and visit. We're also on the site of Roman ruins here in Le Rouet. So that's what gives the architecture its magic and the house from 1500. So come and see.
Will do. Absolutely will do. So now we have to, the obligatory thing is to have smile, huge smiles, while I
Yeah.
look for the off button, which is always a challenge for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mike. It was really a pleasure.